Welcome back to the Polishing Podcast. This is your host, Nico, otherwise known as Nico All Powerful. Trent is not here because he's a bum. I'm going to call him out. Those laughs are Allie, who is my wife and guest host this week.
Yeah.
Hi.
I feel like I'm just like the fallback guest host always.
I mean, yeah.
Probably because we live together.
It's really easy to be like, hey, do you want to do the podcast?
Yeah.
When you are just on the couch.
Right. Watching Flash, as we'll discuss.
Yes. So, that's right. I said it. You're a bum, Trent. He doesn't listen to this.
He doesn't. We miss you, Trent. I love you.
But no, he's the Ryan King's at his house. They've been staying up late at night playing video games that are on Xbox and not PC. So, obviously, they're very busy.
Very busy.
So, he woke up way too late to record. And I texted him just now, as of starting this, about like 20 minutes ago, and he hasn't answered me. So he's not on the podcast this week. Yeah. Who would have guessed?
He's cheating on you with someone else.
That's fine. I mean, look, if that's what he wants to do, that's fine. But, I mean, you can only appreciate steak after you've had ground beef.
Christ. You just called yourself steak, man.
And I called him ground beef.
So well, ground beef is still good.
Yeah. I didn't call him, like, Taco Bell meat.
Right.
It's not even meat at that point.
It was supremely disrespectful.
Yeah. But yeah, so... No Trent, Pixelated Apollo, whatever you want to call him. Big Leather Daddy, as he likes to call himself here.
Right.
But, so, we're going to talk about things we normally wouldn't talk about, which is superheroes, because he doesn't like them. Well, that's not true. He just doesn't care for Marvel movies right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Or the DC movies, but that's fair.
Yeah. Same. Same.
But yeah. So we're going to talk some superhero stuff. So if you want to check out, there you go. You don't have to listen because I mentioned superhero if you don't like superhero stuff. But if you do want to stick around, well, if you found the podcast website and you're like, man, it's inconvenient to listen to a podcast on a website. Well, lucky for you, in the top bar of the website, there are a multitude of places that are linked. I don't know if that's the right verbiage for that, whatever. But you can click on those links on the top bar to go to iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, and the Podbean app. Or actually, I think the Podbean one just takes you to the website. But if you have the Podbean app, you can use any of these websites that are listed at the top. We're also on their apps. You can use any of those to listen to the podcast. And yeah, any and all support is welcome. If you listen to the podcast, it would be great if you went to iTunes and rated 5 stars. We would read a review if we got any, but we haven't. So, tell your friends, rate the podcast. And the only reason I harp on ratings is because the more ratings we get, the more people find the podcast. The more people that find the podcast, more people will listen. More people that are listening, the better opportunity to keep the podcast not something I pay for out of pocket. No, full disclosure there. But yeah,
let's keep it going.
Yeah, I mean, I can afford to do it right now, but I'm gonna at some point in the near future, the Polishing Podcast website domain is going to go straight to Podbean because I can't afford both things. But I already bought a year of the other thing, so I'm gonna keep it.
Okay.
So yeah, that's businessy. If you want to follow the podcast on Twitter, it's at Polishing Pod. Any updates and news about the podcast will be posted there. When it's up, when it's live, it'll be posted on there. And yeah, that's about all the business crap at the top. So we're going to talk superheroes. I know we've talked superheroes before with Allie because, I mean, I can't talk superhero stuff that much with Trent because the only superhero he cares about is Batman, and it's only Christian Bale? Yeah, Christian Bale's Batman and the Christopher Nolan movies.
Yeah.
So,
which are admittedly great.
Yeah, they're good.
So,
but
if you're going to like some superhero movies, those would easily be in my top few.
Yeah.
For sure.
And he's like, they should have just stopped with Batman there. And I'm like, they're never going to do that because capitalism.
Right. But.
Yeah.
But I don't disagree with him on that one. They did it pretty well, and then everywhere else is just going to be by comparison to that. So, And they keep coming up short, man.
I mean, that's WB's fault. But yeah, so there's a couple things we're going to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
We could talk about the recent news of both Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill not playing their respective...
Officially being done.
Yeah. Well, so, okay. If you didn't hear about this, Ben Affleck not being Batman again has been kind of known about for a while, for a couple months. And it seemed like the rumor at the time was Jake Gyllenhaal was on to replace him in the Batman solo movie. Mm-hmm. But now it seems like Jon Hamm really wants to do it. So.
And listen, Jon Hamm was born to play Batman in both the serious...
I mean, he looks like he could be Bruce Wayne.
Right. He literally is serious, stupidly handsome in a way that is not normal. And also campy as a human person.
Yeah. So he could play him in either direction.
Right. So no matter direction they go, I feel like he would make a very solid choice. Plus, I just like looking at Jon Hamm. Jon Hamm should be cast in everything. But I do think he's really talented. Yeah. So I think, like...
They wouldn't go wrong.
Right. They certainly couldn't... They wouldn't be limited.
Yeah. Though I thought the whole idea behind it was, because Ben Affleck has been struggling with addiction issues, and he's, like, in and out of rehab a lot.
See, I didn't know that. I don't keep up with Ben Affleck's personal life.
Yeah. So he's been, like... I've only seen tabloid stuff, and then what other people have said. I haven't seen any articles specifically.
Yeah.
But there's nothing saying, like... 100% that's why he's not being Batman.
Right. We can never really know what's going on there.
But a lot of people will think it's that. And that sucks.
Yeah.
And it would make sense that they would be like, well, I mean, with him potentially going in and out of rehab.
Right, we can't depend on him for
for long production times.
A multi-million-dollar franchise plus press tours.
And it also seemed like he himself was just frustrated with the fact that WB kept fucking with the movies.
Right.
Even though he likes Batman as a character.
And I think I liked Batfleck.
Yeah.
I was into it. I thought it was one of the redeeming parts of Justice League.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually fully supported Ben Affleck as Batman. But I would be interested to see them go in another direction.
Yeah. But the funny thing is back at the time of him, like, being announced as not being Batman anymore, a lot of real rumors were Jake Gyllenhaal, and the whole, I think one of the reasons was people thought they were trying to get a younger person to play Batman.
Yeah, but he's not that much younger.
Yeah, he just kind of looks younger, and it might be because he doesn't struggle with drug stuff.
Right. Maybe, I don't know. If that's what he's going through, I hope he's... I hope he gets well.
Yeah.
But, I mean... I just don't know that I care about a young Batman. I think actually the least interesting Batman story is, here's how I became the Batman.
Well, it's not even that they were going to do a movie on how he became Batman or anything.
Or were they going to do how Robin gets killed? Maybe?
I don't...
Because they reference it in, what's it called?
In Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
Because they showed the burnt suit with the Joker writing on it. Yeah.
And I'm like, I wish you would show me that movie. That movie I would watch a lot.
Well, I don't think so. I think it was just going to be a Batman solo movie.
Oh.
And I don't think they're interested in doing a origin movie because everybody knows the origin of Batman.
Well, and they're not going to do it better than Christopher Nolan and Christian Bale did it.
Yeah. So it doesn't make sense. But I think the only reason they were like, oh, let's get a younger actor to play Batman is so they could have him play Batman longer.
Right.
Without being like, oh, he's too old to play Batman. But I don't know.
It just seems so strange that they like cast all these people, made all these movies only to jettison these actors so quickly. And maybe that's just because the only thing we have to compare it to is Marvel, which has had Robert Downey Jr. since day one, right? And we may not have him anymore after Avengers 4. We shall see. Probably not. But, like, they're not going to, like, immediately decide to restart the universe, right?
Though the Flash movie's no longer Flashpoint, so...
Right. So I don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah, nobody... The WB has floundered the DC property for a while now on the cinematic front.
Just so long.
Yeah.
And I don't know why.
Yeah.
I'm just like, what is so difficult? It's a superhero movie. It's pretty straightforward. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know enough about movie making.
Maybe not. But also, I don't think they do either.
I think in a lot of ways, it feels like the movies are like focus grouped out of being movies. Like they show them to so many people and refuse to have any sort of like interesting take in literally any direction, that it just becomes like a CGI fuckfest, or like we need to have the most bland milquetoast experience. And like the only time they've diverged from that was Wonder Woman, and even that, like on a more than one viewing, really just does not do a whole hell of a lot. It just, what it does is not do the terrible things the other movies did.
Yeah.
Basically. Like, in and of itself, I don't know that Wonder Woman was, like, really doing something incredible. It was just, like, not doing the horrible things. That
it was a good movie that also happened to be relevant because there was no huge superhero movie with a woman that wasn't as bad as Catwoman.
Right.
Which is a terrible movie.
So bad.
So
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that they made Halle Berry do that movie.
Who cares?
She really signed up for that, though. She probably got paid a lot of money, and that was a really terrible movie.
Yeah, it was bad.
But, I mean, Wonder Woman was not Suicide Squad levels of bad.
Yeah.
What are you, some kind of Wonder Woman? Like, that never happened.
Yeah, no.
So,
and then, and that's, but yeah. And then it recently, like, as of yesterday, the 12th, I think, it was announced that WB is potentially parting ways with Henry Cavill as Superman, which I know you don't care about Henry Cavill much anymore.
Yeah.
But I was kind of bummed because he looks like Superman.
He does. He looks very Clark Kent.
Yeah.
Superman.
So I was just like, this is so stupid because he hasn't even really got to be Superman except for the 5 minutes at the end of Justice League where he's like, I'm a happy-go-lucky Superman. I'm going to punch you real hard.
That worked really well. That was the best Superman that I've seen.
Yeah. So since Brandon Routh did it in Superman Returns.
I love Brandon Routh. I just started following him on Instagram. You should all do that. It's delightful. He's really bad at taking selfies. He does them at weird angles. I love it. I love weird celebrities who don't know how to be on social media. They're my favorite people to follow. Him and Hugh Jackman take the same angles of selfies. Ridiculous every time.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So, but apparently Henry Cavill also put out a video today that was kind of weird of him I don't know, I didn't watch the video, but people were like, well, that was kind of weird. And I don't know if it's him posturing as Superman or whatever, but it's it seems very clear that either whoever leaked that news that he was WP was looking around for other people to either play Superman or they just weren't going to do a Superman thing anymore. It was more so that they're probably trying to renegotiate his contract because they were like, oh man, these movies keep doing badly. Maybe we can get somebody else who's not going to...
Well, the article that I read said that negotiations broke down over his schedule. That it was a matter of they were renegotiating his contract and that the way that it turned out, it would leave his schedule open to do The Witcher. Mm-hmm. And that he might be more interested in that and sort of may have let negotiations break down because he wanted to move on.
Yeah.
But we'll never really know.
Yeah. I was just reading something that people were talking about how they might have before Mission Impossible and The Man from U.N.C.L.E. came out, they were hoping maybe his stardom kind of waned.
Yeah.
But then Mission Impossible Fallout was a Mission Impossible movie,
right.
And people were like, oh man, Henry Cavill's really cool in this movie.
Yeah, he was cooler in the trailer than he was in several movies as Superman.
Yeah, so...
that was... And I'm like, okay, so what are you guys doing? Because clearly the guy has the cool factor.
Yeah, and
you
then,
just have to make it happen.
I haven't seen The Man from U.N.C.L.E., but people say he's really good in that.
I watched it. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, as a movie, it was just sort of okay, but I thought that the three main actors did a really good job. Him and Armie Hammer and... Was that Alicia Vikander? Mm-hmm. Yeah, her. The woman who played Lara Croft in the most recent movie.
Oh, okay.
And it was fun to watch them. Mm-hmm. The movie I thought was kind of weird, but they were delightful. The three of them. So
yeah,
I think he's a talented dude. They're just squandering him.
Yeah,
as they do with most of the cast. So
yeah, I just wonder what it's like to be Gal Gadot, Jason Momoa, Ezra Miller, and then I don't remember the kid they got to play Cyborg.
I forget his name.
But have 4 of the 6 people in the Justice League and see that 2 of the main people, the 2 main people, aren't gonna be those 2 people anymore.
The people who were supposedly building the franchise before Gal Gadot got there. I mean, Aquaman. Everyone's gonna go see Aquaman, even though there's just no reason for them to create a movie with that much CGI after how bad it looked in Justice League.
I mean, the trailers looked fine though.
Yeah,
there wasn't bad CGI in the trailer.
Yeah, so they created 2 minutes of content that looked good. It's not really raising the bar very high. Literally, the villain in Justice League looked worse than some video game sequences that I've seen. So I was like, what happened, guys? How did you drop the ball this hard?
You're not wrong. Though, I mean, at the very least, in the Aquaman trailer, Atlantis looked cool.
It does look cool. I mean, and Jason Momoa and Amber Heard are so cool. Yeah. So I'm gonna go see it. It doesn't matter. But I'm just wondering if it's gonna be terrible.
Yeah. I'll be sad. And then the trailer for Shazam, when that came out, was really cool looking too.
Shazam does look good, and I'm excited. I like that actor. I forget his name, but he's great.
Yeah. Though I am sad because it's clear that like the kid that in the movie, the one with the crutches, he has a Batarang and stuff, and it's like, so you're gonna reference your other movies, but not have like Henry Cavill's Superman show up when he hears about another Superman-like character, and just be like, because it would have been such an easy after credit scene for the movie ends and he's like Shazam's doing Shazam shit, and then boom, there's Superman. And he's just like, "You're Superman!" Like, he starts freaking out, and he's like, "You're also a what?"
You're also Superman, basically.
Yeah. He's just confused, like, you're a grown adult and you're like fanboying. He's like, "No, I'm actually 12 or whatever." I think he's 14 in the movie instead of, like, because Billy Batson in the comics is like 12, but they aged him up a little older. Yeah.
Makes sense.
So it's just funny. Also, I've been noticing through all the superhero stuff I've been watching recently, they really, really like alliteration. It's kind of wild.
Yeah. I feel like it's just part of the genre. It's just part of the thing. But yeah, and so then there was the rumor. So not only was there the rumor that Henry Cavill is out, which we pretty much know is happening.
Yeah.
We may not be sure of the timeline, but eventually Henry Cavill will be moving on.
Yeah.
And they'll be having another Superman, maybe. I think the next super movie they're going to make is going to be like Supergirl. From the article I read, but there was the rumor that they were looking at Michael B. Jordan, which would be really interesting for a lot of reasons. Yeah. I just think he's a really talented actor, so literally I don't care. Everyone should cast him in every movie all the time because I think he's so good. And I would just love to see him play anything with superpowers. Like, he was so good in Black Panther. I really liked him in Creed. Fruitvale Station made me weep. Yeah. Weep. Ball tears for like an hour and a half. So I just want to see him with superpowers, frankly. I was sad when they killed him at the end of Black Panther. I was like, wait, he's the best.
Well, I mean, he killed himself.
What? Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
He was like...
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, yeah, I guess. If you haven't seen Black Panther by now, it's on Netflix. Get your shit together.
Yeah. But, yeah, I don't know. But apparently that video... I don't know. It seems like he's still interested in being Superman. At least that's what people got from the video.
Probably interested in that check.
Yeah, but he's also probably interested in actually being Superman and not sad Superman. Like, so who knows? Nobody knows. They knows.
Well, yeah, they knows, but we don't knows. Yeah. You wanted to talk about Spider-Man.
Yes. So after all the superhero news stuff, as of last week, like last Friday, so I don't really remember talking about it Thursday. I don't think I did. Other than I'll be playing it. I played and beat Spider-Man, Marvel Spider-Man for the PS4. It's like, that's the official title, is Marvel's Spider-Man. Okay. Which, sure, I mean, that's true. But, so I don't, but, you know, whatever. Played and beat it. I mean, I guess we can talk a little bit about spoiler stuff if you don't mind.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. With me. Yeah. Because I was like, you don't really care that much.
Right. I don't really video game in that way, so.
But, so if you're like, oh, I haven't played it, or I want to play it, or whatever, spoiler alert, we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then we also plan to talk a little bit about the CW-verse, which, if you don't know what that is, it's CW's DC properties. Or it's either CW-verse or just Arrowverse. People kind of go back and forth between that. I kind of
like calling it the Arrowverse, like calling it by its
main
founding piece of TV. Yeah, I'm comfortable calling it the Arrowverse, even though I feel like the Flash at this point controls what actually happens. It's all grouped around like the weird shit they do with time travel in the Flash, but you know.
But the Arrow is the one.
Yeah. And then if we have time, I would like to talk about Iron Fist season 2.
Yeah, that's true too. Because I mean, we can talk about that one first, and then the Arrow stuff if you want.
That actually, we should do that because I'm only just catching up on the Arrowverse, but. I don't even know if anyone is giving Iron Fist season 2 a try, and I have opinions. So that will hopefully people decide if they want to watch it.
So, all right. Spider-Man. If you don't know, I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, have been since I was a little kid. Have a Spider-Man shirt, underwear, mug. Don't have any posters, which is surprising. Though, do have a Deadpool poster in the vein of Spider-Man.
Yeah, he's like in a Spider-Man pose.
Yeah, as he's falling from some kind of skyscraper.
So it's sort of like having a Spider-Man poster.
Very close. But I'm not like the biggest Spider-Man fan ever. I won't be able to tell you exactly everything about Spider-Man. I'm not one of those people. And that's just somebody who's like a super fan of it. I'm just a big fan. I did read all of the Ultimate Spider-Man run up until Miles Morales, and the only reason I stopped reading Miles's comic was because, or Miles's portion of the comic was because there weren't as many out then, and I read everything up till what was current, so I couldn't read more of his run. But if you were wondering about Miles and Peter Parker and how that all worked, in Ultimate Spider-Man, spoiler alert for a comic that's like 20 years old at this point. Oh God, is it? I mean, I don't know. I think the Ultimate Comics stopped like being Ultimate Comics like a couple years ago. So
it's old enough.
Yeah. Basically, the Ultimate comic book line was a way for Marvel to revamp and like do all of their characters again from the beginning, so it was easier for people to jump in. And it was an entirely different universe. They changed some origins. They changed certain things. Spider-Man still got his powers from a spider at Oscorp. Like, that didn't change too much. The only real big difference is that the entirety of Peter Parker's Spider-Man run happens within 1 year. So he's not even a senior in high school.
Wow.
By the point where he dies.
Kicks it?
Yeah. So...
That's really sad.
Yeah. And if you're wondering how that all happens, well, that's a really long story. But at one point in time, Carnage kills Gwen Stacy and not the Green Goblin, though they do allude to it at one point, because in the Ultimate line, he dates Mary Jane first. He doesn't have like multiple girlfriends. They just go straight to MJ. They have an allusion to the like neck snap with Gwen Stacy in the Ultimate comic book where he saves Mary Jane in a similar way, but she doesn't die, which is, you know, hey, we look at that, we're nodding at ourselves or whatever. But yeah, so Gwen Stacy gets killed by Carnage and then is cloned with the symbiote. I don't really remember this that well. All I know is Gwen Stacy was back at some point, and her and Peter Parker were dating after a certain point, and it was weird because she definitely was dead at some point. Yeah. Because I remember happening and being like, "Oh, okay,
this is what we're doing now."
Yeah, she's dead. She's 100% dead.
But yeah.
And then it goes and so forth, and Peter dies because he takes a bullet for Captain America, I think. And it looks like the Punisher was trying to shoot Captain America. I think this was like at the end of the Peter Parker storyline. It took place during a crossover event, but I was only reading the Ultimate Spider-Man comics.
Oh, so you didn't have all the backstory.
Yeah, so I wasn't exactly sure what was happening in New York. I just know complete chaos broke out. And instead of going to get help, Peter just webs the gunshot wound up because the Sinister Six is going after, like, they know where he lives because they know he's Peter Parker. So they're going after Aunt May and MJ.
Jesus.
Yeah, and at the time, Iceman was living with them. I forgot his name.
Anyway.
Yeah, but so he's, like, trying to, you know, defend Peter's house, basically. It doesn't go so well, though Peter does beat all of the Sinister Six, and then while the Green Goblin is fighting him, MJ hits him with a semi-truck, and then Peter picks up the front end of it and smashes it into him until he collapses and dies.
Listen, MJ is a boss for that.
I mean, she did bring him the tool he used to beat his ass. So.
Right. That's incredible.
Yeah. And then after that, obviously, Miles gets bitten by a spider, yada, yada, such and forth. And you may be going, well, Nico, what's that got to do with anything? Well, spoiler alert, kind of. They showed Miles in a trailer for Spider-Man, which I think was silly, because when you're introduced to him, it's after you do a mission with his dad. And it's like, you could have not put that in a trailer.
Would have been a cool reveal.
Yeah. But whatever. Marvel always fucks up their trailers. Apparently, even in video game form. But yeah, so when you are introduced to Miles, you see him What is he doing? I think you play as him.
Yeah.
No. I remember it now. You originally, when you first see Miles, it's after you do a mission, and as Peter Parker in Spider-Man, you stop a helicopter from crashing into a crowd, and the camera pans over, and it's Miles recording it on his phone.
Oh.
And then you take control of Miles walking towards something. I think so. I don't remember. It's hard to remember. But anyway. So Miles is in the game and you play as him. So in the beginning of the game, I was thinking, I think I know where the story's going. Thankfully, I didn't. Because if I just told you the Ultimate Spider-Man story, you may be thinking, Spider-Man's been Spider-Man for 8 years in the game, and he didn't make it past year 1.
Right, in the comic.
Yeah. Then he's probably going to get ousted.
Right.
But that didn't happen. So at the end of the game, at the beginning of the game, you're working with Doc Ock. By the end of the game, he's a villain, obviously. That's just how that happens.
Yeah.
You see the fall, and it's kind of sad, and it's kind of really emotional and stuff. And I'm selling it short by not telling you all about it. But if you want to know, like, the fully detailed stuff, I say play the game, because it does it really well, and the voice actors are very good. And they convey the emotion behind everything that's happening, and like Doc's mania, I guess.
Yeah.
Like how he becomes this like caring person into this Norman Osborn must pay person. Like they portray it very well.
And it seemed like the guy who was doing the voice acting for Peter was really great.
Yeah.
I was only catching glimpses of it while you were playing, but it was both an absolutely beautiful video game. I have literally never seen a video game that looked that beautiful, even like as you were in the middle of a fight. Like it just looked cinematic, frankly. And also the voice actor for Peter just sounded exactly like what I think Peter Parker would sound like. Like I don't even have that close of a relationship with Spider-Man, but I was like, oh, this guy sounds like a perfect mix of like what was precious about Tobey Maguire, and what I liked about Andrew Garfield, and what was so innocent and sparkly about Tom Holland. It just sounded like very likable and cheerful. Yeah. Even as he's like beating up bad guys. Yeah. He's still like adorable. It's fine.
What kind of cats go underneath the towel? Don't understand.
Yeah. Anyway, so it seemed like it was a really great, well-told story overall.
Yeah. And there's a couple twists. I named a couple of them already.
Twisties.
I mean, if you know anything about the comics, then you shouldn't be surprised that Otto Octavius becomes Doc Ock. Like, that's just duh. He's one of Spider-Man's main villains. The way they set up how it happens and everything is new. At least to me, because I don't think I've ever seen it that way. He's set up as one of the hardest villains he's ever had to fight before, because every other villain is smart or is just powerful, but isn't both. Yeah. And with the arms, Doc Ock is both the smartest villain he's ever had to come up against, and also one of the strongest, because the arms are like basically unbreakable. Yeah. So Peter was legitimately worried that he might not be able to beat him. Yeah. And it makes for a very interesting story. So it was cool. And then the game ends where you subdue Doc Ock and he goes to prison without the arms, because that's, they're not going to give him the arms forever. It's not like in the movie Spider-Man 2 where they get fused to his back or anything. There is a chip he hasn't installed on the back of his neck, but it's not stuck there. Right. Like when the last fight, Peter rips it out of him and the arms just stop working because they no longer can communicate with his brain. So they're not fused to his body like that. I think in the comics they're also fused to him. Like there's like this clamp right here that looks really stupid. But yeah. So that's really sad. And then it's good that he gets stopped, but it's sad, and he tries to trick Peter and appeal to his gullible side and stuff. And then I was like, okay, so this didn't go the way I thought it was going to. But then it shows Miles getting bit by a spider that is from Oscorp, because Mary Jane was at she was at Norman Osborn's loft in his secret little lab that he had. A bunch of spiders in there. She knocked one cage over. It broke. Spider was on her. She thought she got it off. Was just tailing her the entire time, just hanging out. And then when they got to Feast, because Miles started working at Feast after his father passed away, spoiler alert, Miles' dad died in a bombing. Then he tried to save people because he's a goddamn good person. But now I'm worried about the animated Spider-Man movie coming out that focuses on Miles and his dad.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's not how that goes.
It'll be very sad.
Yeah. Also, I don't think in the comic originally Miles' dad was a cop. That must have been something they retconned or changed. Because when I remember the comic before, his mom and dad were just two like regular adults that were kind of not like they were just kind of not. They weren't poor, but they weren't literally middle class either. So that must have been something they changed later on when because they combined the Ultimate and original universes, which is why Miles and Peter can kind of like hang out now, because there is no Ultimate universe anymore. They just kind of smashed everything together, and some characters stayed and others didn't. But so at the end, Miles has powers, or at least alludes to it, and then credits, post-credit scene, because they got to do it.
Yep, wouldn't be Marvel if there weren't a post-credit scene.
Yeah, Miles and Peter Miles is helping Peter move into his apartment, and Miles is like, hey, stuff is weird, and Peter's like, well, you're going through some changes in your body, and it's about that time, and Miles is like, no. And then he just closes Peter's door. He's like, maybe it'd be best if I showed you, and does the jump and hangs from the roof, and Peter's like, it's not that weird, because he can also do that, and it's really cute and cool. So I'm thinking that's probably going to be like the two post-credit scenes are probably sequel stuff. So that'll probably be a story they set up for the sequel about how
really cool.
Yeah,
like
Peter,
Spider-Man training.
Yeah, another Spider-Man.
It's pretty badass.
Yeah, and then there's also another post-credit scene with Harry Osborn and Norman Osborn. Harry is sick. You learn about that near the very end of the game with some type of genetic disorder, and it will kill him if they don't do anything about it. And Norman has him in some kind of green liquid vat in that loft secret lab, but MJ didn't touch enough buttons because it didn't open up to see, and she didn't see that. And it also looks like the symbiote is attached to Harry and just the inside of the vat in general. So it looks like they're setting up not only like new Spider-Man, but also Venom, because also in the game, Peter is obviously not working for the Bugle, but he had a card signed from everybody who still worked at the Bugle, and it was Mary Jane and Eddie Brock. And if Eddie's still at the Bugle, that means Venom hasn't come into play, because the way that always plays out is that he gets he tries to find a serial killer, but the story he publishes is fake, and then he gets ousted for it, and basically his career as a journalist is ruined forever, and that's why he hates Peter and everything. Don't exactly know they're going to do it with this, because Peter isn't a journalist, and that's kind of the thing that sparks it from that side, though Mary Jane is, so I could see them having her find out about it, and then he wants to hurt Peter, and you can still do it. So, but yeah, really cool game. Combat's awesome. It's really beautiful. I played it on a regular PS4, so if you have a PS4 Pro, probably looks better.
Yeah, and it looked amazing when you were doing it, so I can't even imagine. Yeah,
but yeah, really good game. If you like Spider-Man or Marvel at all, you should get it. They have a bunch of little Easter eggs in the game, like Josie's Bar. There's a point where you're collecting backpacks, and Spider-Man has a card in it from Murdoch and Nelson. And he was like, yeah, this lawyer gave me this in case Spider-Man ever needed like any legal advice or like gets into any legal trouble. And he's like, wait, if that guy was blind, how do you know it's Spider-Man? Because he doesn't know it's Daredevil.
Oh yeah.
So
that's crazy. I like that. That's cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's also Avengers Tower, the Sanctum Sanctorum. There's a bunch of the Wakandan embassy. There's another embassy in the game. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. But it's cool. They nod at Marvel properties, but you don't see anybody other than Spider-Verse villains and stuff. Hopefully in the next game we'll get either more Spider-Verse characters, or we'll get a little bit of a peek at, certain Avengers or something. Maybe they'll be able to open up more stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. especially because the game looked so good.
Yeah, and it's selling really well.
Yeah, so I'm sure they're going to reinvest in it.
Yeah, I mean...
For number 2.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
So, play it if you haven't. If you have a PS4. Or if you were thinking about getting a PS4. You can get this and God of War, and you're basically good.
Right. That's like top tier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good year to own a PS4, basically. Those exclusives.
Yeah.
But, yeah, as a Spider-Man fan, I liked it a lot.
That's great.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Iron Fist Season 2.
Okay.
Full spoiler alert, I guess.
I mean, it's only been out for a week, so...
Right, so full spoiler alert, but it's, thank God, it is a short season.
Yeah, well, before we get into spoilers, 8 episodes?
8 episodes.
It's half as long as the last one?
I think so. Or maybe they were 13 last year. It was too many.
Isn't Daredevil Season 1 16 episodes?
I forget. I could probably look it up, but it was too many episodes.
Yeah, they're always too many episodes.
Always
I think
too many episodes.
Not Predator, Jesus Christ. Punisher was like 1 or 2 episodes shorter, but it was...
It still was like maybe 1 episode of too much material. And
Yeah.
I loved that. I thought it was a really great season.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think what is maybe my biggest disappointment in it, frankly, was the lack of the other defenders in it. Like,
Well,
I was really hoping for a Matt Murdock thing. I mean, they talk about him, but they don't. I mean, the closest they get to having other defenders is having Misty,
yeah.
who is great.
But she's not a defender.
Yeah, but she's not a defender. I mean, now she has a cool robot arm. But she is still not technically a defender.
Yeah, she's still she's a cop.
Right, and Iron Fist was in an episode of Luke Cage, which was one of the better episodes of Luke Cage from the 2nd season. And I was like, because I think their interplay is really great, partially because I think it just seems like Finn Jones and Mike Coulter have like a good chemistry. But it's also cool to see, you know, Iron Fist say, look, you know, Luke Cage, you're real, you know, Luke, you're strong and you're buff, but that doesn't mean you can fight.
Yeah.
Like, you're just throwing your weight around. Let me teach you how to actually do some stuff. Because he's, you know, he's fighting Bushmaster in the 2nd season, and Bushmaster actually knows how to fight and is strong.
Yeah.
And Luke doesn't know what to do with that.
Yeah.
So that was one of my favorite parts of Luke Cage season 2. But then Iron Fist doesn't have anybody visiting him. But what I guess is coolest about it is what they decide to do with the fact that, like, having Danny Rand be Iron Fist is potentially the least interesting way they could possibly have told that story.
Yeah.
And it's like literally the blandest possible. It felt like the 2nd season was apologizing for every single thing that was terrible about the first, and there were a lot.
Oh, and the Defenders, where he's like, I am the protector of Kunlun.
I don't know if anyone cares, but there are, I think, multiple YouTube compilations of all of the times that Danny Rand says, I am the Iron Fist, defender of Kunlun, in Iron Fist Season 1 and The Defenders, and it's a good, like, 3 minutes of material, which is way too many times for one character to say one line in any TV show ever.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even think, literally, they haven't done it that many times in Flash, and they have so many more hours of material to pull from.
I mean, at the beginning, he says, I'm the Flash fastest man alive, but other than that...
Right, but that's just like a repeat of, like, let's introduce the show.
Yeah.
These don't even have that. They just do, like, cool art things and cool music things and as their little credit scenes. But yeah, so what was the strongest part of Iron Fist Season 1 was Colleen Wing. And so in Season 2, that's, like... She's very much a driving force, and she gets much more of a character. And then, fair warning, spoiler alert, by the end of the season, she is the Iron Fist. Which is the most interesting way to possibly do it. And, like, every person that gets an Iron Fist, because there's, like, an evil dude from the past who showed up in Iron Fist Season 1 who is essentially jealous of Danny getting the fist. Who manages to steal it from him very close to the beginning of the show. He literally steals the Iron Fist from him, and then both of his fists glow. He has 2 Iron Fists, which is super badass and way cooler than just having 1 Iron Fist. And then Colleen gets it back from him, and her fist glows white. And apparently, when you have the Iron Fist, whatever you're holding in that hand also can be charged with superpowers, as we learn with her katana.
Yeah.
Which is super fucking cool. The last, like, 3 minutes of that season were so good. Literally, I was shouting at the television.
And the funny thing was that it's a time skip.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, here's some stuff.
Oh yeah, the time skip of him with the guns, that was like the guy that plays his like older brother, his like foster brother Ward, gets so much more character development this season, and he does a really wonderful job of like going through like, this person is an addict and he's traumatized, he was abused, he had to kill his own dad basically, like twice. And he like makes a bunch of jokes about like patricide. It's really funny. Oh, and I totally forgot, they introduced Typhoid Mary, who is awesome. She is a character with dissociative identity disorder. So we first encounter her as her sweet little character named Mary, who says she's from Wisconsin and she kind of has a crush on Danny. And then you find out she's actually like hired to follow him and torture him and bring him to Davos. And I had never heard of Typhoid Mary, and I was like, she has to be like, Mary Walker has to be important to stuff. She has to be a comic book character. So I Google her and I'm like, oh, she's this really interesting figure in comic books, and she's usually a Daredevil villain. And I'm sort of hoping they set her up for the next Defenders, because literally anyone would be more interesting than Elektra again.
Well, I think she's dead.
I hope to God.
I mean, I know Matt lived. Spoiler alert for
Spoiler
Defenders.
alert, yeah.
Matt we said that at the beginning.
The teaser, they teased the new Daredevil.
Yeah, the new season.
The new season, and it's him being like, I'd rather die as the devil than live as Matt Murdock. And I'm like, finally, please just go and just start kicking ass again, because you whining about Elektra for a season and a half was just boring.
Well, that, and it's also boring to be like constantly in, I don't know if it's boring. There's a certain point where him constantly being like, I don't know if I should be this anymore. Everybody keeps worrying about me. It's like, okay, we get it. You're a vigilante. People are going to worry about you. You've done that. All right. We've seen it. We've heard it. Can we just move on to the point where you understand that you need to do it? Because it's clear that you do.
Right. Obviously, this is an important part of who you are.
Yeah. It's like, it's very clear even with like Iron Man, like Tony Stark, no matter how hard Pepper Potts wants him to not be Iron Man anymore, he can't not be Iron Man.
Iron Man is gonna Iron Man.
Yeah.
And Daredevil's gonna Daredevil.
But it's true. It's like if I woke up tomorrow and had superpowers and you were like, I don't want you to do that because you could die, I'd be like, how am I supposed to not do it?
Right. At a certain point, if you have the moral obligation, you have the moral obligation, and you're not going to suddenly not have that conviction anymore. Like, not without a really, really, really good reason. Which is inevitably the trope is that it becomes, the death of someone. But then it's like, right, someone died, so why don't you go out there and maybe make less people die? Maybe that would be...
Or make more people die.
Or make more bad people die. Depending on the character arc. Deadpool. So...
and the Punisher.
Right, absolutely. Which are also, like, way more interesting characters than, like, the tortured hero. It's like, either just don't be a hero or be a hero. Like, you debating about it is only good for about 5 minutes of material, and then we're done. So I'm really hoping they just lean in and just have Matt Murdock just kicking ass. And then, if anything, I want them to have to pull him back. And I was hoping for something. Like, it would have been so cool if, like, right at the end, like, what if they were looking for Matt at the end when they're, like, traveling around? I don't know, like, something. Like,
they wouldn't, though. They think he's dead.
Like, does Jessica not know that Matt is alive? She's a literal private detective. Like, why is she not, like, figuring things out? I don't know.
Because
be a reason.
There's no reason for them to look for him. They think he's dead.
they can't have found a body.
Well, yeah,
the rubble.
Nobody tried to find a body.
But why wouldn't... I'm just imagining, right? So, if Jessica is really out here... Because God knows she wasn't doing anything in the last season of Jessica Jones. The last bit was rough.
It's like, I don't know what happened in that show, that season, because I didn't
The best episode was the one with David Tennant in it, and most of the rest of it was not great.
Yeah, all I know is a lot of people were mad that they were like, hey, let's make it all about romance and relationships. And everybody was like, fucking why?
And it was like, that doesn't track at all with the Jessica that you set up in the first season, which was why we liked it. But anyway, if Jessica is like, come on, she's a private investigator. Why would she not want...
Because she would
How would she just miss that there's no bodies?
Because why would she look into it?
I'm sure she read about it. She's like a...
Did she? I don't know.
I would assume.
But did it stay in the show?
I don't remember. I
Well,
could
then.
rewatch it and try to find out. But it seems like somebody would be... And then, and Danny brings it up all the time. He's like, I should defend the city because Matt told me to. And it's like, well, he's not dead, y'all, so...
Yeah, but they don't know that.
Yeah. I
didn't know it until the very last scene in Defenders.
But I assumed, they got Charlie Cox and he's great. And, Daredevil has been consistently good and interesting, so...
Yeah, but there was no reason for any of them to be like, I wonder if Matt's still alive. It's just...
I was just hoping they would put something in it. Because then they released the teaser 4 days after Iron Fist Season 2 came out. I'm like, y'all couldn't have put this somehow. Like, there was no real Easter egg. They just mentioned his name a few times. And I don't know. I wanted something.
Yeah.
I was like, throw me a bone on this one. Or the Punisher. They don't reference the Punisher either at all.
I mean, it makes sense. It seems like the only person that would bring up the Punisher is Matt or Foggy.
I don't know. He was killing a lot of people in that season. And you'd imagine Danny would be like, hey, dude, maybe just stop shooting people? I don't know.
Nah.
But it seems like maybe they just kind of collectively agreed to let Punisher do whatever the fuck he wants to do. Which was fine. The end of that season was great. But yeah, Iron Fist Season 2 was a much more solid season. And developed all the things that I wanted them to develop, which is both developing the story of Kunlun beyond Danny.
Yeah.
A lot of the flashbacks to Kunlun were actually about Davos, which tells you a lot about what Kunlun's culture was like and what was going on. You have this really interesting relationship between Davos and his mother, who is sociopathic levels of cold to him and is super abusive and terrible and is one of the reasons, you can tell that the reason why Davos is doing what he's doing is because he has so much trauma related to the fact that his mother and his father were never proud of him. The only thing they ever wanted him to do was be the Iron Fist. And then when Danny took it and then left Kunlun and his parents were killed, now Davos has no way of ever making his parents proud. Even when he gets the fist, he can't make them proud because they're dead.
Yeah.
And there's no emotional fulfillment for him, and he'll just never be happy, which makes for a really compelling villain. And he also can go toe to toe with Danny and is you're arrogant and privileged and entitled, which he is. And to the credit of the writers, they make Danny be yeah, true.
Yeah.
I am a little prick. And his choice when it comes down to he could get the Iron Fist back is to give it to Colleen because he knows that he is not essentially mature enough to handle it well.
Though that part was also kind of weird. It's okay, you get that you shouldn't have it, but so instead of being hey, maybe I should when we get it back, I should, I don't know, control myself.
Right.
It's his whole idea is just, I'm just gonna pot it off on someone else.
He's I'm a terrible person, so you should just take this. There's no I could be a better person.
No,
he's
it's
just
literally
you should have it.
Yeah,
and
he's
at first Colleen is what in the fuck? That makes no sense.
Well, it doesn't help that he's yeah, when I had the Iron Fist, all I wanted to do was use it. So I came down underneath the subway and just started punching shit with the Iron Fist. And she's like, no, I don't want it.
Right.
You just described what an addict would do.
Right. It doesn't seem appealing to her at first, but she gets it and she does a lot. She just has, from the beginning, had better judgment and a connection to a community that Danny, by definition of his character, doesn't have anymore. He was ripped from his family.
Yeah.
He was never really welcome in Kunlun, and then when he had an opportunity, he just left them all to be murdered.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't know it at the time, but he super just left them all to be murdered. So, obviously, Danny doesn't feel as connected to community as Colleen does, and it makes so much more sense for the superhero to be the person who actually has a neighborhood to defend.
Yeah.
Which is really great. And then at the very, very end, the very last scene, which is super fucking awesome. So you see Colleen able to spread the power of the Iron Fist to her katana, and then you see Danny somehow has both fists as the Iron Fist, and he shoots 2 guns. And at first I was oh, Danny's upgraded to killing people. Okay, that's where we're going. I kind of like this. I was Danny's just how you shoot motherfuckers. But he shoots them and controls the bullets to come together in front of him and protect himself. So he's able to give the power of the Iron Fist to these guns. And I was oh, hell yes. That the next season involving Iron Fist is going to be so cool.
Yeah.
And the fight scenes were loads better.
Yeah.
Loads better than the first season with, like, what was it, like 90 cuts in 60 seconds.
Yeah.
It was so much better. So many more longer scenes. It was clear that the actors were doing a lot of their own stunts, or at least a lot more than they were in the first season.
Yeah.
So that was cool. Yeah, it was overall much better. If you were wondering if you should watch it, especially if you did not enjoy the first season of Iron Fist, I almost didn't watch it because of how bad the first season of Iron Fist was.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad I gave it a chance because it was well worth it. Well worth it. I was fully satisfied. It was like, I'm trying to find like a movie equivalent. I don't know. In the MCU. Like where the first movie was like not great. It was like, it's like watching Thor Dark World and watching Thor Ragnarok. Like Ragnarok was just leaps and bounds better. And
so you admit it?
No, I mean I admit that Ragnarok is leaps and bounds better than Dark World.
Okay,
that is inarguable. But I mean, I don't think Dark World is quite as bad as everyone says it is.
Well,
but it's
you literally
still, like,
just said Dark World is as bad as Iron Fist season 1.
No,
So.
but there were lots of people who saw Dark World where like there could not be an interesting Thor movie. Like we have established that Thor is just not interesting on his own, and they're wrong, but that's okay. And so you know when you saw Ragnarok, it was like, oh okay, we could have more Thor. We should have more Thor. Is really what we want. Like more cowbell, more Thor. Yeah. And that's how I feel. I'm like, oh okay. Let's just, and literally what they did is just give us more Iron Fists. Yeah. Just a plethora of Iron Fists. And I'm here for that. I'm interested to see how they explain how Danny gets the Iron Fists again. But
so you keep like skipping over the part where it's like the end of the season, he leaves Colleen.
He's like pieces, they break up. They're just gone.
Yeah, he leaves. She's at home. She's reading a note by him. Screen fades to black, and it just says a few months later, and him and Ward are in Japan, I think.
Yeah, I think they're in Japan.
And
they've been like traveling all over Asia.
Yeah, and then so we don't know anything. It just says a few months later, Colleen can power up her katana, and Danny has 2 Iron Fists and can shoot guns with them.
Which is fucking awesome.
Yeah, and apparently the guns were stolen because somebody was mad that he had them.
Yeah, and he's there with Ward too. Like their relationship becomes really interesting and much more like brothers, which is really great. I'm just still like the whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, but where's Luke? Y'all didn't call Luke before he got on that private jet to Asia? Luke could use a vacation.
But they weren't going on vacation. That and Luke's busy at home doing whatever he's doing.
Well, at the end of his season, he just like fucked a bunch of shit up, broke about half of his relationships, and I don't know, like Claire left.
Took over a club or whatever.
Yeah, he like decided to take over a club. I don't really know what's going on. They did some weird stuff with Luke Cage season 2, but we'll move on from that. But yeah, it's really good. I enjoyed it. It was so much better than the first season that it is weird that it's even the same show. I think they just really took the criticism.
Yeah.
So if you were one of those people on the internet being like, why does Iron Fist season 1 suck so goddamn much? Thank you. Because I think
somebody heard you.
Somebody was listening and was like, damn, we really made a really, really shitty television show.
Wow.
And if we want people to watch season 2, it needs to be at least like a little bit better.
Yeah. And it seems like for some reason Luke Cage season 2 and Jessica Jones season 2 were weaker as well.
It seemed like they just leaned into the things that were weak about the first season. And then they just were like, let's just keep, like the worst thing they did in Luke Cage season 1 was actually kill Cottonmouth.
Yeah.
Like the far best thing about season 1 of Luke Cage was Mahershala Ali.
Yeah.
As noted by like his other performances. Like he is just incredible. And then, they killed him, which was a great scene, right, where Black Mariah kills him. That was amazing, and Alfre Woodard is super talented, but now all they have her doing is being, like, weak and, like, mentally unstable, which is the least interesting Black Mariah there could be.
Yeah.
Like, she, like, talks in a weird voice all the time, and her character doesn't make any sense in the second season. She's just, like, doing random shit.
That's weird. And
then they bring in her daughter, who's somehow, like, half a doctor and half, like, a mystic herbalist.
What?
Yeah, it's very strange.
Okay.
And then
is that a comic book thing? Is that just what she is in the comic?
I'm unsure. I didn't even look because it just wasn't even interesting enough for me to look up what was going on. And the actress that plays her is good. It's just not very interesting. And then the dialogue gets really bad and weird. Like, it started off interesting in the first season because it sort of went into the, like, Luke, for all of his for all of the really wonderful things about Luke, he's also, like, a person who was, like, raised in a deep South Bible Belt.
Yeah.
And he's got some, like, anger issues, some trauma issues, some masculinity issues.
Yeah.
You know, like, he scares Claire by getting angry with her and punching the wall.
Yeah.
And she's like, look, like, I promised myself that if a man ever made me feel like this, I would just leave. And then she does, and that's it.
Yeah.
Claire's, like, gone. And,
that's fair.
And, you know, and so, like, his most, I think, compelling relationship then is just sort of gone.
Yeah.
And it makes sense that she's gone. I'm like, yes, I'm glad she's gone. But then, like, all of the tension there is literally him going, how do I get Claire back? Which is the least interesting. I'm like, I don't care about your man pain. It's your fault. Cry about it.
Yeah.
You literally don't know. Just call a therapist. You're a superhero. I'm sure somebody is ready to give you some, like, PTSD counseling. Like, you got some fucked up shit going on, Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's just, you know, I get sort of tired of watching, like, man pain.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why even Spider-Man's biggest issues aren't centered. Like, one of Spider-Man's things is like, oh, he can never be happy. Which is kind of true. Because no matter how many times he wins, he loses almost twice as much.
Right.
So it's like, oh, I finally beat this villain. Aunt May died.
Right.
Damn.
God damn it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so, I don't know, that was, like, sort of the least interesting, and then, yeah, the dialogue just goes out the fucking window. Huh. And then with Jessica, they had a really compelling villain. They definitely should have made Jessica's season shorter and just literally cut material from it.
Yeah.
Because it feels like they had 2 seasons of material, and then they just smashed it into 1 season.
That's not surprising.
And then took out
what?
Any interesting ideas that could have possibly happened. And basically she, like, there's this other super-powered person, and it turns out it's her mom. But instead of that being the end of the season, like, the reveal that it's her mom should have very much been the end of the season, and then it's, like, still going for more episodes, and you're like, but why? Now the big baddie is no longer a villain.
Yeah.
Like, the big baddie, in fact, is one of the only people interested in taking care of Jessica, so there's no threat.
And then isn't the scientist that they're all like, oh, he's gonna hurt her, is just like, no, I love you. And that's it?
Right, it's like literally Jessica's mom's boyfriend.
And he's not even a bad guy.
Right.
He's just,
like,
everybody's like, oh, that scientist's gonna do bad stuff. And he's like, nope.
And they went right from, like, David Tennant is willing to watch people just massacre themselves just to, like, get 10 minutes of Jessica's time. So, like, the stakes being that high, right?
Yeah.
They go from that to, like, oh, no one's really in any danger. And it's like, God, then why am I watching this? This is not... It loses its, like, everything that was compelling about it.
Yeah.
And especially, like, what was really compelling about the first season was that it was, like, this very genre... Like, it was all done through the genre of, like, film noir, of this, like, detective thing.
Yeah.
And then it loses everything that makes it high stakes and dangerous, which also makes it lose the genre.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to watch, like, a mother-daughter reunion movie. Like, this is not a Mary-Kate and Ashley flick. Like, I don't understand. Like, I'm not here for that. I need her to be an alcoholic and be a mess and not, like, be in love with this random dude in her building.
I mean, she's allowed to grow as a character. She doesn't have to be an alcoholic anymore.
I guess, but that's what makes... I don't know. It makes her more compelling to, like, have problems. So she's not allowed
to have a character development?
She can have character development, but it can't go from, like, being... like, freaking out because her family's ashes are in her office to finding out her mom is alive and then just being fine.
Yeah,
like,
fair. She
should be fucked up. That would fuck you up.
Yeah.
So, and then she's just kind of not. And I'm like, what happened? The best thing that they do is develop Trish and Malcolm.
Huh.
And...
Who's Malcolm?
Malcolm is
the
guy that works for her.
Yeah.
Give him more of a role. He's really great. Trish is really cool. Giving her powers, making her into Hellcat is very cool. I'm down with that.
Yeah.
But then they just really shit the bed on the main plot.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I was like, come on, guys. Iron Fist is really going to be the best out of this batch? That's embarrassing for you.
Yeah, out of all the Season 2 stuff.
Yeah, like...
Well, current Season 2 stuff.
Current Season 2 stuff, yeah.
I guess Well,
Daredevil season 2 was really, really good.
Yeah, for the first half.
Yeah, for the Punisher part.
Yeah. So I guess it would be like Daredevil season 2 part 1. Iron Fist, Daredevil season 2 part 2.
Yeah.
Then I don't know how to rate the other two.
Yeah. Well, I think Jessica's season 1 was all good. I think Jessica's season 1 is excellent.
Well, I'm just saying all season 2 stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. And the first half of Luke Cage season 1. Very, very solid. Yeah, that's what... should we talk about Arrowverse?
I would usually not want to cut this off this quickly, but this headache, like
it's
this...
just killing you.
Yeah, it's just
You could just
not
leave
gone
and I
away.
could just riff about Arrowverse. To talk about how many... I wonder if Stephen Amell negotiates more in his contract when he has to do that, what do you call it?
The
thing with
salmon ladder?
The salmon ladder. I feel like he should. I feel like...
Yeah, has he done it recently?
Yeah.
Wait, in the
he
show?
He goes back in one of the episodes I just watched, he's like trying to teach Felicity how to do it when they're drunk.
What?
Which is incredible to watch because she's just like wasted and tiny and doesn't... She's like, I can do it. She's like, he's like, you just do a pull-up with like a flourish at the end. And she's like, cool, I don't know how to do a pull-up. And it's like pretty adorable.
Right.
But I feel like he should negotiate where they pay him an extra $1 million every time. Well, especially because it is him doing it. He very much could be injured doing something like that. So
I'm pretty sure they put a mat underneath him.
I'm sure, but also I would be negotiating more money every time they make me do that shirtless.
I mean, look, he signed on for it.
Yeah,
literally. That's one of the first things he did in the show was the salmon ladder.
I wonder how long he trained just to be able to do that in the first episode.
Probably a long time.
Probably a really long. That must have been like, here's the last thing we're gonna film, so we can get really good at it before we do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and I'm only playing catch up, so it's not like I have anything new to offer except to just talk about how terrible Legends of Tomorrow is.
Well, I thought season 2 was better because they leaned into the campiness.
I mean, it was better, but it's still like not as good as Flash season 1, for example.
Well, I mean, yeah, but has anything been that good? Flash hasn't even been that good since season 1.
I feel like Supergirl, the last season of Supergirl,
Season 3
was pretty good.
Okay.
It was pretty good. Plus, I did just watch the musical crossover with Flash and Supergirl, and it had Darren Criss in it, who is also in Glee.
Why was he in it?
He plays the person who brings them together. So the conceit of the episode is that Barry and Kara get put in a coma, and in their mutual delusion, it's a musical, and they have to go through the plot to the end in order to get out of the coma.
What the fuck?
And so, yeah, and it's a musical episode, and it's crazy too because then you realize how many people on the cast actually are actors who sing. Like, I was like, yeah, I mean, Jesse L. Martin was on Broadway. He was in Rent, like, for a really long time. He was doing really great stuff. And I'm like, when was the last time Jesse L. Martin got to, sing a little tune? And in it, him and the guy that plays Martin Stein, the older half of Firestorm, in the delusion, they're Iris's dads. And Barry's like, dads? And they're like, yeah, you got a problem with that? He's like, he goes, I like musicals.
That's what he says.
And I was like, that's the way to do it. It was just like really delightful.
What the hell?
I was almost sad though, because what I wanted it to be was just like a glorious, just absolutely unironic Glee episode with superpowers, and that's not quite what it was, but it was delightful.
That's good though, bub.
I would say that all the crossovers so far have been really, really good.
Yeah.
If I could just select all the crossovers and make them into one season, I would call that the best season out of everything.
Weird. All of the things where all of the shows come together is cool.
Yeah. I just feel like the Legends of Tomorrow, even when it's done better, is still bad.
I mean...
Unfortunately. Because I feel like it's so interesting, but then it's bad. It could be interesting, and then it's super not.
Oh, well.
Oh, well.
That's too bad for them.
That's too bad for them.
Maybe season 3's better.
But they're just still making it. They're not, no sign of stopping.
Watching.
Yeah, which I fully, give them another chance. Let's all just watch it. I'll keep watching it even if it's bad. I will, because it's like fun. Mm-hmm. Like it's so bad that it's kind of good. Like a bad reality TV show.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
But yeah, we should go to bed.
Yeah, my head hurts a lot.
I have to teach people.
Okay. Well, if you want to if you're done saying stuff about Arrowverse for right now, just because my head hurts a lot.
I'll save it for the next time I have to fill in.
Yeah. I'll wrap this up here.
Yeah. Thank you for letting me do this again. This is fun. I like it.
I like you.
Aww. Everyone listening just puked.
That's fine.
It's alright. We love each other. Get over it.
Yeah. Okay. So that's going to be the Polishing Podcast. I usually don't like to cut them short for an hour's technically short for the podcast, but my head hurts too much to keep going.
It's bedtime.
Yeah, I can't do it anymore. So thank you for listening to the superhero stuff. If you enjoyed it, rate it, review it, iTunes, that kind of stuff again. PolishingPodcast.com has all of the links to all of the apps and stuff we're on and websites. Polishing Pod Twitter. This will probably go up late because I'm not staying up to render it out and upload it and type out everything tonight. So it'll be up late, and I'm sorry, but I hurt. So yeah. Good night. When you listen to this, I hope you enjoy it. And yeah, thanks for listening.